They say time heals all wounds. I don't know who they are, but clearly, they never had a father like mine. When my mother died, something inside me shattered, something I didn't have the words to name back then. I was 16, barely clinging to the edges of normalcy when cancer devoured the only parent who ever made me feel safe. I thought losing her was the worst thing that could happen. I was wrong, because just 3 months after we buried her, my father walked out of the house we'd once called home. And this time, he didn't die, he simply left me for her. His friend from work. The one my mom always said had eyes too bright and smiles too sweet for someone who was just a colleague. I remember watching from the window, knees hugged to my chest, as he loaded his car. He didn't take much, just a suitcase, his guitar, and the stupid leather jacket he wore on weekends when he was unwinding. I waited for him to come back inside and say something. Anything. But he didn't. He drove away, and with him went the last thread of the family I once knew. I lived with my mom's sister after that. Aunt Cheryl. She was kind but distant, like someone doing a favor they weren't sure they wanted to be thanked for. She gave me a roof, meals, and silence. Lots of silence. That's what grief looks like when nobody talks about it. For 10 years, I rebuilt myself. Slowly. Painfully. I went to college, worked odd jobs, learned how to live without the anchor that was supposed to steady me. I cried in private, celebrated small wins alone, and taught myself how to hold joy and pain in the same breath. Then last week, my past showed up on my doorstep wearing an old, too familiar face. He looked older, grayer, heavier in the shoulders, with eyes that flinched when they met mine. He called me Kay, like we hadn't lost a decade. Like I hadn't cried myself to sleep every night for months wondering what I did wrong. I didn't say anything at first. Just stared at him. Heart pounding like it used to when I'd wake up from dreams where Mom was still alive. He stood there, awkward and shivering, holding a small paper bag and looking like a man who'd misplaced his dignity somewhere along the road. "Can I come in?" He asked, and against all logic, I stepped aside. I wish I could tell you that I let him in because I'm forgiving. Or that I've grown into some saintly version of myself who lets go of the past like wind through a sieve, but the truth? I was curious. Morbidly, shamefully curious. What does a man say to the daughter he abandoned? What does he ask for, showing up after 10 years of silence like some prodigal anti-hero? The answer: he asks for help. Not for himself, of course. That would have been easier, maybe even understandable. No, he wanted help for them, his wife and children. The family he traded me for. "They're struggling," he said, his voice a whisper, his hands wringing like a schoolboy caught cheating. "Melinda lost her job. The boys, your brothers, they're scared." I didn't know where else to go. Brothers, I didn't even know their names. I should have laughed. Maybe thrown him out. Slammed the door and gone back to eating my soup and watching Netflix. But instead, I poured him a cup of tea and sat across from the man who disappeared from my life without a backward glance. "You want my help?" I said, voice colder than the tea between us. "After 10 years of silence, you want me to help the family you chose over me?" He flinched. "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it." He opened his mouth, then closed it. I watched him struggle for words like a drowning man reaching for a lifeboat just out of reach. "I made mistakes," he finally said. I thought you'd be okay. That Cheryl would take care of you. I didn't know how to raise you without your mom. I was a mess, and Melinda, she offered stability." I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. "You replaced us." "No," he said quickly, eyes wide. "No, Kayla. I never replaced you. I just ran." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a photo. It was crumpled, like it had been folded and unfolded too many times. 2 boys, maybe 6 and 8, smiled up from a park bench. A tired-looking woman, Melinda, I guessed, held them close. "They don't know you exist," he said. Of course they didn't. I should have trusted my instincts. A part of me, the part that still remembered crying myself to sleep at 16, knew something was off. My father wasn't here because he missed me. He wasn't here out of guilt or remorse. He was here because he wanted something. And I've, foolishly, had cracked open the door. The truth didn't take long to show itself. 2 days after that awkward reunion, I met them again. This time at their apartment. It wasn't curiosity that brought me, it was the lingering ache of unfinished business, the need to look these people in the eye and confirm what I already feared. The place was cramped, sure, but not falling apart like he'd made it sound. There were new electronics scattered around, a flat-screen TV, a gaming console, name-brand sneakers by the door. Struggling? Maybe. Desperate? Not the way he'd described. Melinda opened the door with a sour expression, like I was the inconvenience in this scenario. Her face was sharp, all painted brows and judgment. She gave me a once-over, lips pursed, arms folded. "So, this is her?" she asked, turning over her shoulder toward my father. "You didn't say she'd look so stiff." "Nice to meet you too," I muttered. I stepped inside. The boys weren't around, thank God. I don't know what I would have done if they'd looked at me with hope in their eyes. Melinda gestured to the couch. I didn't sit. My father walked in from the kitchen, holding 2 mugs like this was some warm family reunion. "Kayla, sit down. Let's talk like adults." I didn't move, he sighed, setting the mugs down and rubbing his face like I was the difficult one here. "Look, I know the past is messy. I messed up. Okay? But now's not the time to dig up old graves. We've got real problems." I raised an eyebrow. "Do real problems start with money?" Silence. Melinda scoffed and flopped into a chair like she was on a throne. "We're not asking for charity. We just thought maybe, since you've got a good job now, you could help out. You're doing well, right? Living alone, no kids. You must have some money to spare." I blinked. "I'm not your bank," I said flatly. Dad held up his hand. "It's not like that. It's just Melinda's medical bills are piling up, and the boys need school supplies, and my unemployment ran out. You're in a position to help. That's what family does. You haven't been my family for a decade." "Blood is still blood," he said, with the same calm authority he used when I was 12 and afraid of thunderstorms. Like I was still a child who needed his approval. I felt something hot surge in my chest. "Funny how blood only matters now that you need something," I shot back. He frowned, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. There it was, the flicker of control, the subtle shift in posture. He was trying to rein me in, like he used to. Like he still thought he had a say in who I was or what I owed. "You don't need to get defensive, Kayla," he said. "This isn't about the past. We're struggling. That's all. And you have the means to help. You're not a child anymore, you're a grown woman. It's time to do the mature thing." "The mature thing," I nearly laughed in his face. Melinda added, "It's not a lot we're asking for. A couple hundred here and there. Help with rent maybe. We're not asking you to move in." I looked at her, this woman who took my father and still had the audacity to act like I was obligated to her. Like I should be grateful to be included in their disaster. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You both decided to build a new life together, cut me out completely, raise your children, live your lives, and now that you've run into trouble, I'm supposed to pick up the slack?" Melinda rolled her eyes. "Wow. What happened to compassion?" "Compassion?" I took a step forward. Compassion died the day he walked out on a grieving 16-year-old girl and never looked back. My father stood, the calm mask slipping. "Don't speak to my wife like that." "Oh, now she's your wife. But when I needed a parent, you were just confused, right?" His jaw clenched. Melinda stood too, arms crossed. "We didn't come crawling, okay? You invited yourself here. If you don't want to help, just say so." "I didn't come here to write checks," I said coldly. I came here to see if there was anything left of the man who raised me. And? My father snapped. What did you find? I stared at him, feeling the weight of 10 years settle on my shoulders. A man still looking for someone to clean up his mess. I walked out without another word. The door slammed behind me, but I didn't flinch. If they wanted a savior, they could look elsewhere. I had finally learned to save myself. I thought walking away would be the end of it. I thought that after I made it clear I wasn't a lifeline, they'd move on. Look somewhere else. Sell their precious electronics. Hustle. Adjust. But I underestimated just how far desperation could reach, and how easily pride could bend when there was money on the table. It started with texts from my father. Kayla, don't let anger cloud what's right. I raised you. I was there, even if it wasn't perfect. The boys need shoes. Please. Then Melinda, you have no idea what it's like being a mother watching your kids go without. You don't even have children. Why are you being so cold? We're not asking for a mansion. Just a little help. I didn't respond. I refused to feed it. But silence, it turns out, only sharpens entitlement. It escalated, calls. Day and night. Sometimes I'd pick up by accident, thinking it was a client or colleague. And there they'd be either one or both, pressing their needs like they were doing me a favor by letting me in. Then came the unannounced visit. I had just come home from work, exhausted, starving, craving nothing more than takeout and a hot shower, when I saw them. Standing in front of my apartment building. Like they had every right, Melinda wore fake tears like makeup. My father had that same twisted expression, half humility, half accusation. I just want to talk, he said. You lost that right, I replied, brushing past him toward the front door. Melinda grabbed my arm. I yanked it away. Don't you touch me. I snapped. She blinked, momentarily stunned, then hardened. This is how you treat the people who raised you? You didn't raise me. I looked straight at my father. And he stopped being a father the day he packed his bags and chose you. My voice shook, but not with regret, with rage. Years of swallowed silence were rising like bile. You have no idea how hard it's been, my father said, like that was an excuse. You think life was easy for me either? I did what I had to do. And now I need help. You act like you don't owe me anything, but I put food in your mouth for 16 years. You mean the 16 years Mom was alive? His face dropped. I kept going. She worked 2 jobs while you drank beer and waited for dinner. She paid for my braces. She sat with me through asthma attacks while you watched TV in the next room. She was the parent. You were a tenant. His jaw clenched, but he had no words. Melinda, however, did. This bitterness isn't healthy, you know. All this success and still so angry? That's a sign of unresolved trauma. Maybe you should talk to someone. I laughed. A dry, hollow thing. You know what's funny? I did talk to someone. For years. I paid for therapy out of my own pocket. And you know what I learned? Boundaries. That's what this is. A boundary. They stood there like statues as I buzzed myself in and slammed the door behind me. I watched from the window as they argued on the sidewalk. Eventually, they left, but they weren't done. Days later, I came home to a note shoved under my door. We'll lose our place if we don't get rent money by Friday. Please don't let us end up on the street. There was even a photo of the boys, posed, pitiful, like something out of a charity ad. It made my stomach turn. I didn't owe them a damn thing, and yet, something inside me, it wasn't guilt, not anymore, just grief. Grief for the father I wished I'd had. For the peace I would never get from them, so I made a decision. I took the note, the photo, and every message they'd sent, and dropped them into a drawer. My final drawer. The one labeled, "People I don't chase anymore." I called my building's security. Gave them a heads up. If either of those people showed up again, they were to be turned away. I blocked every number. They had finally crossed the line. And I was finally done pretending it wasn't personal, because it always had been. When people lose control over you, their last weapon is guilt. Or pity. Or both. A few quiet weeks passed after I cut contact. No texts. No calls. No random appearances outside my door. It was peaceful, eerily so. The kind of silence that warns you the storm isn't over. It's just circling back with more force. Then came the envelope, no postage, no return address, just slid under my door again. I stared at it for a long minute, debating whether to even touch it. But curiosity won, and I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. Neatly folded. From my father, Kayla, we didn't want to do this, but you've left us no choice. Your half-brother, Eli, is sick. He's been diagnosed with a kidney condition. He needs surgery. We don't have the money. Insurance isn't enough. We're doing everything we can, but time is running out. You're the only person we know who can help. Please don't let a child suffer for our mistakes, we're begging you. Even just a loan. We'll pay it back. I swear, Dad, the manipulation was thick, scripted like a bad movie. And while part of me wished it wasn't true, I'd learned better than to take anything they said at face value. I didn't reply, but I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I drove back to the neighborhood I left behind. Back to the memories I'd buried like broken glass under fresh soil. And yes, part of me hoped, just maybe, they were telling the truth. Because despite everything, I couldn't stomach the thought of a child truly suffering. I pulled up to their building and stayed in the car, and that's when I saw them. All four of them, my father, Melinda, and the two boys, laughing on the sidewalk with grocery bags, fast food, and a Bluetooth speaker blasting music. No hospital visits. No 4 poles. No weight of illness. Just life, normal and untouched, so that was the game. They had lied. Again, I got out of the car, walked up slowly. My presence wiped the smiles right off their faces. Melinda stiffened. Kayla. I didn't say a word. I looked at the younger boy, Eli, I assumed. Healthy as any kid his age. Kicking a bottle cap down the street with zero signs of fatigue or fragility. Just a lie dressed as innocence. You're disgusting, I said quietly. To both of them, my father opened his mouth. But I raised a hand. No more speeches. No more letters. No more fake illnesses. I came here just to see how far you'd stoop. And guess what? You crawled lower than I thought humanly possible. He tried to protest. We were desperate. Desperation is no excuse for deceit, I snapped. You used your child as a prop. For money. Do you hear how sick that is? Melinda crossed her arms. We didn't mean, you meant every word. You planned this. You put it in writing. I looked at them, truly looked, and saw them for what they were, parasites in panic. Feeding off whatever scraps of guilt they could find in me. But there was nothing left. Not for them. I want you to hear me loud and clear, I said. This was your last chance. Your final card. And you played it like cowards. My father's expression twisted, anger, shame, maybe regret. I didn't care. I'm done being your daughter. You don't get to call me that anymore. You left me once, and now I'm leaving you, for good. And I walked away. Did it hurt? And God, yes, but not for them. For me. For the girl who waited 10 years for a sorry that never came. For the woman who had to stand in front of the people who abandoned her and still be the strong one. But as I got in my car and drove away, that pain turned into something else, clarity, peace, closure.